All right, I believe we should be live here Monday night. Dodgers Dogs, part of the Dodgers Daily Network. My name is Austin Brubaker. You can follow me on X or Twitter, if you still call it Twitter, at AustinBRU99. I will be your host in the evening. As you can see, I am in my home studio here in the great state of Michigan. Ready and excited to talk some Dodgers baseball tonight with you, with everyone out there. I know it is about 5 o'clock on the West Coast, so just getting out of work right now. Couldn't be more excited to talk some Dodgers baseball. There's a lot that we get to discuss tonight, and I'm excited to be on the ride with you guys to talk through a wide variety of different subjects. The upcoming series that we have against the Philadelphia Phillies, Dodgers versus Phillies, the two best teams record-wise, and probably just based off of their roster-wise, the two best teams in the National League going face-to-face in the city of brotherly love. We'll be talking a little bit about that. I'll also probably be towards the top of the show talking about Justin Wrobleski, who made his debut. Obviously, Dodgers Daily, huge supporters of the farm system, huge supporters of these guys who come up through this system. So we couldn't be more excited to see these guys actually get to fulfill some of their big league dreams. And we got to see that with a Justin Wrobleski Robo. I'll be giving my thoughts. I know I tried to appear on the show yesterday. We were dealing with some sort of gremlins. Hopefully you guys can hear me just fine. From everything on my end, everything should be looking just fine with that. Also, we'll be talking, and I did a little bit of a deep dive. I kind of hinted at it on the show on Saturday afternoon. Casey and I had a show, so I talked a little bit about doing a little bit of a deep dive into the Dodgers farm system, and particularly their hitting development. So we'll be talking a little bit about that as well. And then, of course, you guys are the best. You guys are going to direct the show where it needs to be. So we'll be getting into your comment section as well. But I would be remiss, I would be foolish or inaccurate or just not right for me to start this show without talking about what happened on Sunday, last night, or yesterday afternoon, I guess you could say, with the debut of Justin Wrobleski. So just a little bit of context, because this, I think, kind of relates to us here at Dodgers Daily, because my first time seeing Justin Wrobleski was actually the first phone call that I had with the host, the Dodgers Daily himself, Casey Porter. I was doing a little bit of recording at the games for Casey at the time, and it was the first time I was going to Fort Wayne, Indiana to go watch the Loons play, and Justin Wrobleski happened to be pitching, and he was a former Oklahoma State Cowboy, which if you know Casey, you know that he is Cowboy, Oklahoma State fan through and through, and will absolutely live through that. So we got to see a lot of Justin Wrobleski, and he said from the outset, hey, it might take him a little bit because he's coming back from injury, but once he gets to that point, once he gets to that level, you're going to see an absolute another level out of Justin Wrobleski. And I say the exact same thing to Dodgers fans, because that night in Fort Wayne, Indiana, the crowd was hot, the crowd was yelling at him, the crowd was a little bit intense from what you normally see at the minor league level, but for that, he battled through a little bit of a struggle at times during that outing. Definitely not the start that he had or wanted to have. He ended up becoming, through the course of the 2023 campaign, the best pitcher on that Midwest League East Division champion Great Lakes Loons. There was periods of absolute dominance, and especially when the moment absolutely led up to when it was the absolute best of moments, Justin Wrobleski showed up. During those two playoff starts, I saw just a different dog inside of him. His stuff was electric. As you saw yesterday, he's got a fastball that can reach up to or upwards to or close to 100 miles per hour. So that is unbelievable. It does come a little bit of his short extension, one of the shortest extensions in the league, which means that the fastball is not going to get as quickly on hitters, say, for example, like a Brusdar Gratterall. Still, when you have a lefty that throws that fast, that is going to play. And when you have that short extension, that just adds an extra foot for your breaking stuff to fall off the cliff a little bit more. Robo's got the stuff. We see the demeanor that he has. I saw an insane amount of growth from Justin Wrobleski through the course of his entire 2023 campaign. So excited that he was able to make his debut. Obviously, gave the Dodgers 5 innings, made a couple of mistake pitches that I know he wants back, and gave up those two-run home runs. But other than that, there was periods where he looked the part. He looked like, and he proved that he can get big league hitters out. He proved that in certain situations, he can get the double play. And I think that shows a ton of excitement for the Dodgers. It also, and this is something that I thought about quite a bit, is the journey, especially for pitchers. The path between high A and LA is incredibly short. And especially when you have the talent like a Justin Wrobleski, when you have the stuff that he has, man, the guys that you see at the high A level or the double A level, or even especially in Oklahoma City, man, especially with the Dodgers, a team that deals with a lot of injuries, dealing with some of their pitchers, the path to get to the big leagues for pitchers is short. So these guys better be ready. It's also going to mean that there can be opportunities for these guys. So these guys on the farm system, when we do the down on the farm, especially for these pitchers, watch out, because there is talent like Justin Wrobleski, who I'm sure is going to get additional opportunities. I don't know if he'll get additional opportunities, whether he's going to make one more start, perhaps on Sunday in Detroit. That could be a possibility that he makes that start. I don't know exactly what the future is. Could be just filling in innings, but I just know the future is bright, and the career trajectory of Justin Wrobleski for himself, for his family, has forever been altered, and he can always say that he is a big league pitcher. And he got a first strikeout, was able to go 5 innings. Couldn't be more excited for him, as I couldn't be more excited to be here with you guys. Dodgers Dogs, part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Been a few minutes, get a little bit of time to get some of you guys into the comment section and guys get into watching the show today. So we'll go ahead and see who is part of the chat so far, which, if you're new to the chat, feel free to leave a like. Also, feel free to leave a comment. More than happy to have every person here, Dodgers Dogs, part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights, thank you very much for joining us. Always seems to join in on the shows. Mike Boyer, same with you. Glad to hear that. And also glad to hear that you guys can hear me as well. So, got a couple of questions. We'll get into a little bit of the trade talk. I know Showtime LA mentioned some of his recommendations as far as who he wants to be traded, which I'll have some opinions on Dodgers trade targets. And if that's where you want this show to go, that's where we'll go. But he also mentioned, Austin, how bad is DePaula's injury? Also, Albertus and Yandri seem like studs. I haven't spent a lot of time with Albertus and Yoendry just because they haven't reached my level a whole lot. Also, I don't spend all the time watching the Rancho games. I get a little bit, and I know enough information to be able to talk pretty confidently on the Down on the Farm segment. So I'm excited about those guys because there's a ton of buzz, particularly about the international prospects that the Dodgers are getting, which is a whole nother topic that you have to do a deep dive into. Dodgers do a great job of putting their resources, finding talent internationally, Latin America. We've seen a lot of guys come up and be professionals. We're seeing that right now with guys like Andy Pages and Miguel Vargas, international free agent signings that the Dodgers went out and got. Not necessarily for those guys or for every guy that gets called up from the international market. Big signings for the Dodgers. I don't necessarily remember what the signing bonus for those is. As far as Josue de Paula, look, I was at the game in West Michigan, in Comstock Park, Michigan on Wednesday, which apparently was the game when Josue de Paula suffered some type of injury. And what I can say is I was pretty confident that there wasn't anything serious that took place, meaning I did not see any type of swing where it looked like he was in any type of pain. I didn't see any throw or any type of collision or anything like that in the outfield. during the ninth inning is when Josue De Paula got substituted for with Chris Newell. Came in. He was going to be a pinch hitter. I don't believe it got to that point. Ended up being a defensive substitution for him, which I thought, man, late in the game, it's a one-run game. Perhaps that is something that they feel more comfortable with a Chris Newell out there. So that was my thought going into that. Obviously, fast forward into the game on Thursday. Josue De Paula has got a swing in his throwing arm, in his left arm, and he is currently on this 7-day injured list. I have not received any additional information aside from that. I don't know the extent of it, if it is precautionary, if it is more serious, or any point of how long that's going to be. I can tell you right now that he is not currently on the full season 60-day injured list, so there is still the possibility that he could return this season. However, I don't know the extent of the injury. I just know that he spent this past week, started off great, drawing a lot of walks for Great Lakes, got to see him a little bit. Don't know much besides that. As we get additional updates and information, we'll be able to let you guys know about Josue De Paula, who has all the talent in the world coming up for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Hopefully he can make his return to the Great Lakes lineup. So excited to be here. Dodgers Dogs, part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Deuce, thank you very much for joining us as well. BC, thank you for joining us as well. Showtime LA also asked the question, Austin, any chance we get to see Edgardo Enriquez this year? So, Edgardo Enriquez, and this is something that I had mentioned. This goes back to the comment that I had mentioned about Justin Wrobleski. The road, especially for these hard-throwing, these elite type of talent pitchers, the road from high A to LA for pitchers can be pretty short. And we saw the demonstration with Justin Wrobleski, who entering this season had not pitched a single inning or a single pitch in Double-A. Started off for Double-A for the first time, got moved up to Oklahoma City, and from there was able to receive the promotion. For Edgardo Enriquez, if you're new, if you're not familiar who Edgardo Enriquez is, he is an elite reliever within this system. He has a fastball that, as Casey had mentioned, tops up to 103 miles per hour. And yes, I am serious when I say 103 miles per hour. And what's perhaps more impressive is, as Casey had mentioned, a 96 mile per hour slider. Not a 96 mile per hour fastball, which is already impressive as in itself. A 96 mile per hour slider. The stuff is absolutely electric. So with Edgardo Enriquez, I would normally say for a guy that started off the season in Rancho Cucamonga, probably not for him getting his debut. I would not doubt for Edgardo Enriquez him making some sort of vast jump within the system. I think the arm talent is just that special. And when you have a special arm talent like that, I think you want to take advantage of what he has in the innings that he has on his arm. I don't think the Dodgers want to bite all of the bullets at the minor league level. What does that mean for Edgardo Enriquez, and how does he fit into this mix in the bullpen? Makes it a little bit tricky. That's why I say it's probably unlikely that he makes his major league debut, just because you have a lot of veteran guys that are on this major league bullpen. You also have guys that are working their way back. A guy like a Joe Kelly is working his way back. Guys like Brusdar Graterol, Ryan Brazier are trying to work their way back. So you have guys like Clayton Kershaw, an additional starter. And if you have more starters on your roster, that's going to eat into some of the bullpen roles. So with Edgardo Enriquez, arm talent, absolutely unbelievable. Honestly, I wouldn't be totally or necessarily surprised if the Dodgers called him up. I would just say it's unlikely. Arm talent is there. Roster spots might not be, although with the Dodgers, you never know. One injury away. Edgardo Enriquez is throwing 103 mile per hour flamethrowers for the Dodgers late in the season in big, crucial roles. That 96 mile per hour slider to keep hitters off balance. We're going to have to wait and see what happens with Edgardo Enriquez. Only got to see him a couple times in Great Lakes before he got called up. He's just that good. The Havoc, thank you very much for joining us. And this is a really cool point because Casey was able to release a couple of different interviews today, including the Maytag, Jack Dreyer, left-handed reliever as part of this system. Another one of these guys from the University of Iowa. Insane smarts behind him. He's an absolute genius with just about everything. Jack Dreyer, left-handed reliever, what he's able to do, particularly with his pitch mix, I believe it's a fastball, a slider, and a curveball. Don't quote me on that. I'm trying to remember exactly from what was stated in the interview. Obviously, I got to see Jack Dreyer all of 2023 with the Great Lakes Loons, but I don't always remember the pitch mix that they have. He's putting up some insane numbers this season, combined with AA and AAA, got called up to Oklahoma City. I believe he has an ERA under 1 this season, and he's striking out 36% of batters. His walk percentage is less than 6%. It's absolutely unbelievable what he's doing. He's going out there, pumping strikes into the zone, and forcing hitters to go ahead and attack. And he's using his mental mindset to be able to know how to attack hitters, know how to generate weak contacts. He's able to read hitters mid-swing. Similar to a guy like Edgardo Henriquez, I think it's going to depend on availability. And when you have a guy like a Jack Dreyer, especially for the Dodgers, and this is nothing against Jack Dreyer, the player, but this is just the mindset of the organization, you would have to commit a 40-man roster spot to a Jack Dreyer. Whereas a guy, let's just name a couple of guys that are on the roster that might not be long-term answers in the future, but are filling key crucial roles, like a Johan Ramirez, like an Anthony Banda, two really good guys, or a guy like a Ryan Yarbrough. All of those guys are playing key roles, and they're getting opportunities in the bullpen, in part because they have a lot of guys that are injured, a lot of guys on the 60-day injured list. And what I don't think the Dodgers want to do right now, and this is, again, nothing against Jack Dreyer, nothing against Edgardo Henriquez, who are earning their way to the LA level. The Dodgers might not be comfortable quite yet DFAing those guys if they need to have, for example, Max Muncy come back off of the 60-day injured list. They need to clear a roster spot. Typically, that comes from the bullpen, or in Max Muncy's case, that could come with a Kevin Biggio. Or if you have another pitcher coming off the 60-day injured list, that could limit some of the opportunities. I wouldn't doubt it. The way that Jack Dreyer is pitching, he's absolutely earning his promotion to the LA level. We'll just have to wait to see what the Dodgers do with opportunity. There is opportunity cost that comes with having a bunch of veteran players. This is something Casey and I talk about quite a bit. But with some of these guys, like what a Justin Wrobleski did, he's earned the opportunity that he has, and the opportunity presented itself as a result with injuries or guys needing additional rest, wanting to make sure that you are limiting some of the innings that these guys are having. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm excited for our Jack Dreyer, the Maytag. If you have not checked out the interview with him, also there is an interview, I believe, with River Ryan, another guy that you could see called up to this Dodgers system, especially if they need additional help eating innings, managing workload. I would not be shocked if we see River Ryan in a Dodgers uniform in 2024 down the stretch. I'm excited to see that guy, another guy, an absolute steal for the Dodgers in the trade that they got. So couldn't be more excited about that. Junior Medina, thank you very much for joining us, is joining us from Fresno. I'm assuming Fresno, California. Thank you very much for joining us. Happy end of the workday to everybody out there on the West Coast. Christopher Navarro, thank you very much for joining us. Have you or Casey been able to see a game at Dodger Stadium? If not, we've got to make that happen. You know, it's funny enough, I've never been to the state of California before. Never in my life. Never been to Dodger Stadium. That is a goal of mine. That is a dream of mine. I actually used to live out in the state of Washington, but that was when I was 3 to 7 years old, when my dad was out in the Air Force over there. So that's about as far west besides the state of Hawaii, which I got to go on a family vacation for. Other than that, I haven't really been out west past Texas before. So I got to go out to a Dodgers game. Dodgers do, however, come to Michigan this week. They get to play the Tigers, possibly going to a game later this weekend. We'll have to wait and see how things work out. I've got some family coming into town, good close family friend coming into town. We got to see what he's wanting to do this weekend, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Also, might have to make it out to Great Lakes for the Loons. Reason why I'm wearing this hat today, Pontooners weekend today. An alternate identity for the Loons, so we'll have to see what happens going forward. Mike Boyer, you're living the good life, young man. Thank you very much for joining us. He and Kristen Bavaro is joining us for Redona Beach, Los Angeles. I apologize if I'm saying the names of the cities in California incorrectly. Obviously, I'm not from the state of California, so we'll get some of those right eventually. Kristen Navarro saw Henriquez at spring training. Electric stuff. Yeah, absolutely electric. Edgardo Henriquez, again, reliever in this system. Another one of those guys you have to keep an eye out for. And if you have a list of untouchables, he would be towards the top because he can help this team in a major way. As Casey and I has mentioned, even though no player in this system is untouchable for the right price, he's kind of towards the top of that list, though. Showtime LA, Austin, appreciate the inside of the prospects. I asked, what trade deadline targets do you have your eye on? So that's a really good question as far as the trade deadline targets, because obviously mentioned in the title of the show today, the Dodgers are going to have to go out there and make some moves. This team is imperfect. There is a lot of spots that you can point to where, man, either you feel uncomfortable with, or you go ahead and, man, this team could really use a lot of help. I think the team could really use an additional bat that can really help supplement this team. So be on the lookout for the Dodgers going after a bat. So here's how I look at it right now. So let's go through the lineup before we get to the pitching side. Let's take a honest look and evaluation of where the Dodgers are at and what they possibly could do at the trade deadline. So you're assuming that Mookie Betts is going to be coming back. Now, I am under the assumption right now, and I think a lot of Dodgers fans are under the assumption that when Mookie Betts comes back, he is very likely going to be taking over the second base position. And this is something that there's been a lot of opportunities for Gavin Lux to find his role, to figure things out. To this point in the season, the results have not matched to that level that the Dodgers absolutely need. So with a Gavin Lux, with a Mookie Betts, I don't think you take him from a broken hand and put him right back to shortstop. With Mookie Betts having to play shortstop, you're giving him early in the season as many reps as he possibly could get so that he could get ready and ramped up for the postseason at the shortstop position. I don't think the Dodgers are going to take that chance anymore. And I think for the Dodgers, I think for where they are at, I think they would feel more comfortable having a Miguel Rojas who has overperformed expectations offensively. We'll see if that continues. I hope it does. And I think he adds a little bit more of that contact-oriented, smart baseball skill set that you could need at the bottom of the lineup. I think they feel more comfortable with him at shortstop. You move Mookie Betts to second base. There's your double play infield combination. Gavin Lux either finds a role on the bench if you have a useful role for him, or they got to figure out something else for him. That's how I envision the shortstop and second base position. Then there is the hole and the big question that is going to be on the mind for Dodgers fans as far as what happens to Max Muncy. Is Max Muncy going to be coming back? Because the early assumption was going to be, man, Max Muncy's starting to take swings. Maybe he can come back right after the All-Star break. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. So I don't know if when Max Muncy is going to be coming back, which is why you've seen a little bit of Miguel Vargas taking some ground balls at third base. I don't know if the Dodgers are going to keep him at or try to transition him back to third base when he's swinging the bat too incredibly well. And even with third base, I don't necessarily know if there's a ton of targets. The one guy that has been mentioned quite a bit, similar-ish type profile to a Miguel Rojas, meaning a guy that makes a lot of contact. The expected WOBA is a little bit down from what he's producing, but has been productive this season, is a guy like Luis Rengifo of the Angels. Perhaps he is a target. Other than that, I'm not anticipating Nolan Arenado. He's not going to be traded to the Dodgers. The Cardinals are doing too well this season, and the Dodgers don't want to take on that contract. I don't know what the other alternative. I would anticipate it's either Max Muncy. Perhaps you transition Miguel Vargas back over there, especially because I think the Dodgers, if they're going to add a bat, I think they're going to add an outfield type of bat to this lineup, a guy that can have a little bit more consistent approach or have the upside in the outfield. That's kind of where I am at. I would anticipate right now that Chris Taylor is going to remain on this bench. You can have your own opinion. You could say that's not smart from the Dodgers, and I can't necessarily disagree from his offensive production, but that is my inkling of what they'll do. As far as Kike Hernandez, he's another one of these legacy guys. I would probably anticipate him remaining on this team for the near future. So if the Dodgers are going to acquire some bats, I would say one, maybe two. One outfield, I feel fairly confident that it'll probably try to go out and acquire somebody, whether that is more of a safer, perhaps more upside, like a Taylor Ward. You could do a Rengifo Ward trade with the Angels, although I don't know if the Dodgers and Angels would make a trade. Or, as Showtime LA had mentioned, they want to go big for the Randy Arozarena type trade package. That could potentially be another one. He's one of those unique guys where I don't always put a ton of credit into, hey, we need to get a guy who has performed well in the past or in the postseason. But if you have but Randy Arozarena is one of those unique guys that always steps up in the big moment. We've seen that not just in postseasons, but also in World Baseball Classic. So those could be offensive pieces. And then as far as the pitching side, I do expect them to go out and target some sort of starter, which has brought up the conversation of a Garrett Crochet, which I've already expressed my concerns. I think if you are concerned, and this is something that River Ryan, I believe, mentioned in the interview when he was dealing with some arm fatigue because he's started to ramp up his arm. He's never pitched this amount of innings before in his life, and so he had to scale it down a little bit. Now he's getting back on track. I think the Dodgers, if they go after Garrett Crochet, who has all the upside in the world, could be dealing with and taking a big risk with targeting a guy that hasn't pitched as many innings as he had really at all in his life. I think a career high before it was 50-something innings, not including the innings at the minor league level, and all of that was out of the bullpen. Perhaps the Dodgers would have a plan, and perhaps he's such a difference maker that it's worth taking that risk. I just don't envision this front office be taking that type of risk. I think they would rather go for either the big prize on the market, if he is all available, and Skubal as Showtime LA, which would be the guy that I'd feel much more comfortable giving up the big package for him than a Garrett Crochet. And yes, I'd be willing to pay more than what I would pay for Garrett Crochet because I think they are both at a similar level, yet I would far more better expect Skubal to be able to last. No idea if the Tigers going to trade them. They keep all of that information far too close to the chest, and they wait till the last second for the trade deadline, and Dodgers don't necessarily want a debacle like what happened last year with the Tigers and the Edgardo Rodriguez type of trade. So for pitching, I would anticipate probably one starter to help supplement, and then one outfield bat, maybe a third baseman if they absolutely need it. Although with some of the guys that they have playing right now, like Miguel Vargas, throwing a little bit of a wrench because he's performing really well during the playing time that the Dodgers are getting him. I still think the Dodgers want to make the necessary moves because they have gone all in on this team. Those are just some of my thoughts. If you have specific guys that you want the Dodgers to target that I have not mentioned, or that you feel like, hey, these guys are not getting the necessarily credit that they deserve, please let me know, and I'd be happy to do a little bit of a deep dive and talk about them as we are here talking Dodgers Dogs, part of the Dodgers Daily Network. So we're going to go back into the comments section right here, as I see Casey is here in the chat right now, taking a little bit of break from fishing today. Excited to have you part of this. You'll be answering some of your questions in the chat as well. Showtime LA appreciated the River Ryan interview, as I sure did as well. Christopher Navarro just mentioned that there is an army of arms on the 60-day injured list. If they all come back in the second half, that's a serious 40-man roster crunch. And Christopher Navarro, absolutely right with that. Yeah, that could be an issue and something that the Dodgers are going to have to look into as they go forward in the season, and as they figure out which type of players that they want to target, or what type of players that they want to go ahead and involve in trade packages. Does it include guys on the 40-man roster? We talk a lot about on the show. It's not the money that's the issue. It's the roster spots that are the issue. And the Dodgers certainly have more players that are worthy of 40-man roster spots than they have 40-man roster spots. Not every organization can say that. The Dodgers can very confidently say that. So that is a good problem to have. Dodger Blue 82, nice hat, Austin. Yeah, the Great Lakes Pontooners hat. You can get this at loons.milbstore.com or by calling 989-837-BALL. This weekend is Pontooners weekend, so got to do a little bit of promotion for them. So we're going to continue with the chat. Luke Morta, thank you very much for joining us. What do you think about Riley Green? Riley Green, outfielder for the Detroit Tigers. One phenomenal player. He's turning into the exact type of player that the Tigers are looking for, that dynamic outfielder. Strikeouts perhaps a little bit high, but still 25-26%. You'll deal with that with the athleticism, with the ability to draw walks, and with the power potential he has. He's an all-star for the first time. Congratulations to him. I think the Tigers would be more willing to part ways with Tarek Skubal than Riley Green, just because the Tigers' hitting development system has not produced as many players that can be productive, and they're looking for bats as opposed to their pitching development, which is far more advanced currently than their hitting development, at least from an outside perspective. So I don't think they're going to be willing to give up a Riley Green, although certainly he would be an elite type of player that I'd love to see in a Dodgers uniform. Just don't envision that happening right now. Hepatitis, see you later. Thank you very much for joining us. One of people that loves to tune into the chat, and we love seeing you be part of this chat. Austin, do you like the idea of selling high on Stone in exchange for a guy like Skubal? Love what Stone has been doing, but a Skubal last now 1-2 punch would go far in the playoffs. Yeah, so I think that's a phenomenal question. Because selling high like a guy like a Gavin Stone, who I don't necessarily know if you'd be selling high on, because I still believe that there's a lot more to come for a Gavin Stone, but he has plenty of years of experience, plenty of years of team control left. That's going to be very valuable to another major league team. And you can use that leverage to go out and get a superstar type of talent. I think Tarek Skubal is a difference maker. We saw that in his start, yesterday when he pitched 7 innings, 12 strikeouts. He seems to do that consistently. I think he is one of the best pitchers in the game of baseball. Now, would that help with the depth of the Dodgers pitching staff? I think you could have some questions, particularly if you're dealing with questions about depth in the pitching staff. Want to make sure you have arms for the postseason. But that it's possible that move could be worth the risk of going out and getting a Skubal. And then you have for the next, 3 postseasons, a Tarek Skubal, Tyler Glasnow 1-2 punch. You throw in a Yamamoto. You throw in a Shohei Ohtani if you want him to be pitching as well. That is absolutely nasty and elite. And you throw in some of the other guys like a Bobby Miller who should be around. I would, for a Tarek Skubal trade, It's going to cost a lot, and it's probably going to cost some guys that are major league talent, major league ready. I would not be completely surprised if in a Tarik Skubal type trade, you could see either Gavin Stone or a Bobby Miller type young, controllable pitcher that has established himself at the major league level be part of a trade. Whether that's best for the Dodgers and whether that sort is best for their depth is a whole nother question. But guy like Skubal, if he becomes available, would be a difference maker for this team, and that's perhaps the exact type of guys that you're looking for at the trade deadline. Also, I would trust his track record more than a Garrett Crochet, so I'd be willing to pay more for a Tarik Skubal than a Garrett Crochet. Although, knowing the Dodgers, they'll probably go after the guy that has 1 year of control that they feel a little bit more comfortable and get it at a little bit of a discount. Whether that's right or whether you should go big, as the Dodgers have gone big all season long, is up to you guys, and whether the Dodgers want to spread out some of their resources accordingly. Hepatitis See you later. The only guy on the injured list it would be okay to depend on is Mookie Betts. Front office needs to operate like Yamamoto and Muncy are out for the year this deadline. I think that is probably the mindset that they need to take. Mookie Betts, I feel very confident that he's going to be able to come back and be the productive difference maker type hitter and producer that I know that he can be. The other guys, especially since we've seen as many setbacks with Max Muncy, especially because we know pitching injuries can have all sorts of setbacks, like we've seen already with a Clayton Kershaw, like we've seen with a vast variety of other players. Dodgers have to over accommodate for some of the injuries or some of the concerns that they have. Which means if you need to go out there and get an additional third baseman, whether that be Rengifo, whether that be Isaac Paredes from Tampa Bay maybe, who is an all-star over there, or whether that's somebody that can help best fit into this mold Dodgers team, I think the Dodgers should go all in and try to do everything they can to win a World Series this year and get the right mix of players that are going to help this team. I'm not a prospect hugger. I follow these prospects. I want them to get major league experience. I want to see them in the journey. I don't want to see these guys getting stuck behind at the AAA level, even if that means they don't play for the Dodgers. So if the Dodgers go out, if they are aggressive and they do everything they can to win a World Series, and these prospects get opportunities to get experience elsewhere, I think that's what Casey and I would be rooting for. So I'd love to see the Dodgers go all in. This is a huge and big opportunity for the Dodgers. You're always going to have injuries when you play Major League Baseball. So if the anticipation is, hey, maybe next year we'll be healthier. Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, Shohei Ohtani, Will Smith, all of these guys just get a year older and it becomes a year further away. Got to do everything that you can to put yourself in the best position to win now while finding and targeting the right and correct players. And an interesting debate would be a battle between a Taylor Ward, who has a much higher expected weighted on base percentage than his current one, versus a guy that has produced in the postseason in years prior, like a Randy Arozarena. And not saying that necessarily it's just those guys, but that's an example of a concept or a topic that would be interesting to see the type of player that the Dodgers should target. Christopher Navarro, what prospects would you not want to be included in trades at the trade deadline? It depends as far as who you're going out and getting, because as we've stated before, I don't think any prospect is untouchable. There's certain guys that I'm incredibly high on, like a Dalton Rushing that we mentioned, like an Edgardo Henriquez, who is a special talent out of the bullpen, like somebody that I mentioned quite a bit, who is also a top 100 prospect according to Baseball America, not in the Dodger system, but in all of minor league baseball. We've been covering him for years now, at least a year now. Alex Freeland, shortstop within this system. He'd be one of those guys that I'd find very hard to give up, just because I think he could be a shortstop or infield type player of the future. Josue De Paula obviously has a lot of credentials coming up through the system, but a lot of these guys, if you go out and get a Tarek Skubal type player, if you find the necessary pieces, the Dodgers do have the ability to find, to draft, to sign, and to train and build up these guys to become good and great prospects all over again. They have a long and storied reputation, which actually, after I go through more of these comments, I will be going through an example. We'll be doing a little bit of a deep dive into the Dodgers hitting development system and just showing you guys the extent of the success that this hitting development system has had through the course of this season. So you'll get a little bit of an insight into that, and you'll understand, hey, this Dodger system is good, and we should continue with the track that they're on. They have a great track record for that. Hepatitis, see you later. Randy has been doing better lately, I think. Yeah, I know. He had a great month of June. Seems to be ramping up quite a bit. And so if you believe in that upward trajectory as well as the past history that he has, very easily could be one of those guys that you go out and target. I would not be opposed to that at all. We talked a lot about him during the offseason last year as being one of those difference impact type players. We'll see what the Rays do, though. Obviously floating around 500, so we'll wait and see what happens. Christopher Navarro, Lance Lynn will probably be available. Should we go after him? Part 2. I'm going to say that the Dodgers will not go after Lance Lynn. If they do, oh man, that would be, I don't know what I'd do. We'd have a whole stream where we'd have a lot of things to say about the Lance Lynn type of trade, especially depending on who they give up in that type of trade. But who knows? It could work out better this time, right? He couldn't give up 20 more home runs for the Dodgers, right? We'll see what happens. Jay, thank you very much for joining us. A very important member and guys that great contributor for Dodgers Dogs right here. He's talking a little bit to Casey. I'd like to know from Trey Sweeney how his time in the LA system is different in New York. Yeah, Casey's doing a lot of great interviews right now with a lot of these players. Tulsa and Oklahoma City, he's got great access. He's also just a little bit behind the scenes stuff. Casey's been doing a great job. It's getting a lot of recognition mainstream too, not just the news that Casey has been able to break, but there's also people that are reaching out to know about certain guys, know about Justin Wrobleski and his journey. So we have a little bit of a unique perspective. So we're happy to be joining with you guys and interacting with a lot of these players, a lot of these prospects. Really excited to be here. Dodgers Dogs, part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Showtime LA. Skubal is a lot more proven. One of the guys I'd feel comfortable giving up the De Paulas and the Ryans for. I'm exactly there too. Skubal, a lot more proven, a lot higher track record, less concern for the innings limit as you would have with Crochet, where man, his innings limit, it's got to be a red flag, a huge red flag, because at any second right now, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Obviously, he spent a lot of time off of the on the injured list, recovering from surgery, so we'll have to see what happens. Chico, thank you very much for joining us. What up to you as well? Showtime LA, is it time to worry about Lorenzo? Seems like he is another slump as someone who pays a lot more attention. What's been going on there, Austin? He's been dealing with... from what I've noticed, there's been a lot of plays, especially behind home plate. He's taking a beating. There has been several different instances where there's been foul balls that have clipped him pretty bad. And so he's been fighting through that, trying to get better behind the plate, trying to make sure that there's not as many wild pitches behind the plate. He's got a lot of skill set. He's got a lot of tools. And we saw a magical stretch for him from late April throughout the month of May. We saw those great walk-off hits against the Beloit Sky Carp. Recently, it's been a little bit more of a struggle. I don't know his exact numbers as of late. With Tyrone Lorenzo, I think he's still making those adjustments. I think he's fighting through the dog's days of summer. He's dealing with the beatings that he's taking behind the plate. I'm not overly concerned about a Tyrone Lorenzo. I think he's still got a lot to learn behind the plate. Don't give up on his skill set, though. I think at any second, there's going to be one of those weeks or a couple of those weeks or a couple months where you are just in awe with Tyrone Lorenzo, and he has still yet to tap into the power potential that he completely has. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with Tyrone Lorenzo. Not completely giving up on him quite yet. Chico wants to include Lux in some sort of trade package, depending on if the Dodgers have any future plans for Gavin Lux, which I think all of us are projecting him to be part of some type of team, at least Mookie Betts being the second baseman, Miguel Rojas being the shortstop. If that's the case, then Gavin Lux, it's very difficult to find him a role. Perhaps you see Gavin Lux as some part of some sort of trade package. I would not anticipate in any scenario Gavin Lux being designated for assignment. You could because he has 2 minor league options. If he doesn't have a role on this roster, perhaps he gets a reset there, or he gets a reset with another organization, or he completely catches fire and hits 600 over the course of the next month, and then the conversation completely changes. But right now, he's really struggling. We'll have to wait and see what happens with him. Mike Boyer, Mark, you're awesome and very knowledgeable of what's going on in the game with Dodgers. Showtime LA, yeah, I agree. Casey Frasso gets forgotten a lot because he's injured. How much value do you think he has to teams considering he's still injured in rehab? We'll have to wait and see what happens with a Nick Frasso. Casey was able to help bring some insight into that as well. Jay, to me, if the Dodgers think Stone can help them in the playoffs this year, then you keep him. If not, then I think you have to at least consider moving him in the right deal. And this is a very good question for this Dodgers team, this Dodgers organization that, if you date back to last year, did not trust a guy like a Ryan Pepio during a postseason type of setting. It was very obvious. They started Lance Lynn in Game 3 over a Ryan Pepio, who was there. Awesome. He was amazing for the team last year. Just wasn't able to produce wasn't given the opportunity, I should say. Best pitcher of the Dodgers, or hottest pitcher of the Dodgers going into that point, didn't get to play during the postseason. So with Gavin Stone, what is their game plan? Is it going to be something where they are going to trust the veterans, or are they going to go with the hottest guy? Casey and I have been huge advocates for the merit system, and to this point in this season, I know his last start didn't go exactly as planned, or just seemed a little bit off. To this point in the season, however, Gavin Stone has earned a postseason starting role. Will that continue, and do the Dodgers plan on him being a postseason type of starter? If that is the case, if they want Gavin Stone to start postseason type games, then as Jay mentioned, you do everything possible that you can to keep him on this roster. I think that is the case for the Dodgers and what they want to do with a Gavin Stone. I would be in total agreement with that. Jay also mentions that a Rosarena is below average defender. Have to consider that. Absolutely. You have to consider all aspects to somebody's game with Randy Rosarena. If you go out and acquire him, you are betting on his ability to perform and show up in the big moments during the postseason type setting, as he has done throughout his entire career. That's why you would bet on a Randy Rosarena. Pika Peep, thank you very much for joining us. Awesome contributor to Dodgers Dogs, to Dodgers Daily. Very insightful about this system. Gets to watch a lot of this system as well. I've read a lot of his comments as well. So be sure to check out a lot of his comments, as he follows this system quite a bit. Thank you very much for joining us, even if it is a little later here on Dodgers Dogs. So happy to have you be part of this show today. Christopher Navarro, speaking of catchers taking a beating, what do you think of Marcell Ozuna falling through and smacking catchers on the noggin? I haven't paid a lot of attention to that, so I couldn't really speak to that a whole lot. It would be concerning if it becomes a little bit of a pattern. Could just be something that happens because of the long swing. I'm not going to attribute malice when I don't have the full information, but I'd have to look at a little bit more to see what happens. With a Gavin Lux, as I mentioned, I don't think he's as versatile of a player. I think he's a second baseman right now, and I think that's where they feel comfortable with him playing. I think they've tried to utilize him in different positions. It just hasn't worked out for various reasons at a time. It doesn't mean that he couldn't learn that late in his career, but that's also adding additional things to Gavin Lux when right now his focus should be on trying to fix a lot of the hitting woes that he has. So be interesting to see what happens. And as Showtime LA mentioned, Rengifo could definitely be an option at third base. Luis Rengifo, third baseman for the Angels. As we go ahead, and this is going to be, I'll go ahead and do this segment right now. This is going to be, and let me provide a little bit of context with this. So I had mentioned something on Saturday's show, and this is something that I've seen a little bit more, and I was curious as to why I had been seeing it more and more. The theory and behind this, or as something that has been pushed at least a little bit more from some very insightful people, is that the Dodgers can't develop hitters anymore. Or at least there's been a drop-off in production to the hitting development system of the Dodgers, that this Dodgers system sucks at developing hitters. I was curious of that. I keep an eye out on this system, has been following this system for several years right now. I've paid close attention to a lot of these players, and I believe in this Dodgers hitting development system. And what I want to do is, through a series of tweets that I had, take a little bit of a deep dive into this system so you can get a little bit of an idea of what they are doing, where some of the success has been, and perhaps some of the setbacks, some of the struggles, or perhaps some of the successes they have had. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transition over to the camera right over here. We're going to go over to some of my tweets. We're going to read through this. We're going to break it down a little bit. And then if you guys have any sort of things where, man, I disagree with that, or I'd like to have some additional questions with that, this is an understanding of where this Dodger system has been and where this Dodger system, we could be seeing them going in the future. So Dodgers year after year, and I'm going to be reading some of this and then providing some insight. The Dodgers year after year continue to prove they have an elite development system. I've seen many examples with pitching, yet their hitting development staff often underappreciated. Under the leadership of Andrew Friedman, the Dodgers have built an environment conducive of success at the MiLB level. Following this system, something is different and special. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to look specifically at players that have a 125 WRC+. WRC+, if you're not familiar, weighted ones created plus, is right now one of the standards of offensive production. It takes all of the offensive outputs that you have and puts them in a scale starting with 100 being league average, anything above that being above league average. So 125 WRC plus means you're 25% above league average as a hitter. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the minor league level to see who in each one of these systems, how many players have at least 125 WRC plus and at least 250 plate appearances. We're also going to look at 2024. These are going to be in reverse year. We're going to look at 2024 first, except limiting that to 150 just because it's about halfway through the season. That's about a little more than half of the sample size. Now, why is this important? Why are we looking at minor league level stats when the only thing that should be important is major league level stats? I think that minor league level stats are still important and provide an important insight. So this is important because having success at the minor league level often is correlated with major league success. Obviously, as it states right here, not every minor league player will be successful in Major League Baseball. We've seen vast and variety of instances where minor league players don't translate to the major league level. However, almost every single major league player had at least some sort of success in minor league baseball. Not every single player, but just about every single player that plays Major League Baseball was successful in minor leagues. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gotten the opportunity. Which means if you look at the pool of players that are successful at the minor league level, you're going to see a lot of major league players right there. And so, thus, accumulating a lot of players who are successful at the minor league level increases your chances, doesn't guarantee, but increases your chances of finding a major league caliber player and provides a lot of flexibility with potential trades. And these are two key aspects for the Dodgers. If you have a lot of players that have a high WRC plus and a lot of plate appearances, meaning you have a lot of productive hitters at your minor league level, you're putting yourselves in a pool or position where those guys could be major league caliber players. Or, very often for the Dodgers, who lean a lot into the veteran type of players, that could be the case where you use those resources, the guys that are having successful minor league seasons, and go ahead and trade those guys to another organization because they're being successful and because other teams want to see the promise of the future. So, without further ado, let's look at, for the minor league level, we'll go ahead and look at the minor league impact, then we'll look at the major league impact after that. Let's look at the number of players who fit in the categories of plate appearances and WRC+. So this is every single major league team. We'll go ahead and show more if needed right here. For the 2024, hitters with 150 or more plate appearances and 125 WRC+. Dodgers are towards the top with 13 such players. This was stats before the games on Saturday. I did my research on Saturday, so the adjustments hadn't been made quite then. Dodgers, top 4. 2023, the Dodgers had 10 such players. Again, top 5 in minor league baseball. 2022, the Dodgers had 10 players, 250 plate appearances, 125 WRC+, top 5 Major League Baseball. 2021, 250 plate appearances, 125 WRC+. Dodgers led all of baseball with 16 such players. 2019, 18 such players, top in all of baseball. 2018, they had 13 such players, again, top 5 to 9 if you want to include all those teams in all of baseball, or 8, I should say. 2017, Dodgers had 13 such players, again, towards the top 10 in all of baseball. And then you date it back to 2016, they had 11, again, in the top half of minor league baseball. And if you go ahead and look by totals by organization, the Dodgers have had 91 plus such seasons from 2016 to 2023 of 250 plate appearances and 125 WRC+. That is second in all of baseball by organization. And what makes that even more impressive, if you look at the average first round picks from 2016 to 2023, the Dodgers are 4th worst. And the only reason why the Cubs, the Cardinals, and the Astros have a lower average draft position is because there were certain years where they were drafting first in the 3rd round for various reasons. I'm sure, especially in the Astros case, you can probably guess what those reasons were. So despite having the 4th worst average draft position from 2016 to 2023, the Dodgers have had the 2nd most players in all of minor league baseball that have been the most productive hitters in the game, which means year after year, they're continually finding players that are productive at the minor league level, which, one, puts them in a pool where they could be successful big league players. Remember, with big league players, with minor league players, almost all major league players had some level of success at the minor league level. Whereas if you have a good pool of those, you either have a lot of players that could be successful major league players, or you could utilize those to get trade pieces. All very important. WRC+, remember, advanced offensive skill set or offensive tool to measure the production of a hitter, something that teams like the Dodgers lean heavily into. I know the Dodgers have their own WRC+ or analysis that they use. So Dodgers draft towards the bottom, continually produce, whereas a team like, for example, Tampa Bay, they average pick number 19 in the draft 2016 to 2023. They're still productive in what they are able to do. Now, Dodgers consistently see production at the minor league level. Now, that is a testament to their system of development. Now, what is important for this? Let's look at for the Dodgers and for Major League Baseball, 2016 to 2023. Obviously, you want them to be productive big league hitters. You don't want them to have a ton of success at the minor league level and not be able to hit at the big leagues. Let's see what they've been able to do. Hitters drafted, and I tried to remove the players that didn't sign. For example, I believe the Seattle Mariners drafted Adley Rutschman. He didn't sign with the Mariners, and therefore the Mariners should not get the WAR accumulation of what they were able to do. Let's look at position player WAR 2016 through 2023 by major league organization. And if you look, position player WAR, the Dodgers rank second in all of Major League Baseball. Now, we'll get into a continuation of this talk in just a second, but from 2016 to 2023, position player WAR by players that were drafted. This does not include international signed prospect. This does not include an Andy Pages. This does not include a Miguel Vargas. This does not include any of those guys. These are just included with guys that were drafted by the Dodgers organization. They've accumulated since 2016 to 2023, as of before games on Saturday, 34.1 WAR, wins above replacement, second in all of baseball. Now, obviously, and this is something that you have to be consistent of, and this is where some of the complaints have come from, is obviously 2016 unique draft, uniquely good draft. As the Dodgers drafted Will Smith, they drafted Gavin Lux, they drafted Luke Raley, they drafted Zach McKinstry. All of these guys have been major league players, and in the case of Will Smith, has accumulated a lot of WAR. Dodgers get a ton of credit for that. Gavin Lux has accumulated 5+ WAR in his career. Luke Raley has accumulated about 3 WAR+ WAR in his career. They get credit for that. 2016, uniquely good draft. So, let's look at what happened from 2017 to 2023, eliminating the uniquely great position player draft for the Dodgers, which will bring them down the standings quite a bit. We'll go ahead and take a look at this. This is position player WAR by draft team. You can see the Dodgers are right towards about the middle of the pack with about 7.2 WAR. Again, this is exclusively position players that they have drafted as part of their team, right at about middle of the pack, which you could say, hey, that proves my point. That's where I see some of the lack of development for the position players in this system. And certainly, I cannot deny that it is a drop-off in recent years. I don't believe it's as drastic as it is often made to seem. To say the Dodgers suck at drafting or developing position players, I don't believe that's the case. They're right now, with what they've been able to do recently, about the middle of the pack. And what's important about that is all of that with position player WAR that's been accumulated, that includes superstars that were drafted early, like a Bobby Witt. That includes guys like an Adley Rutschman and a Gunnar Henderson, who I know Gunnar Henderson absolutely was a miss by the Dodgers. They had the opportunity to draft him, didn't draft him, should have, but you're going to miss out on those type of players. It includes guys that have been superstar level players or guys that have received more opportunities in their respected systems to succeed, to accumulate WAR over guys that the Dodgers have been able to produce. Every single team is going to miss out on a draft pick that they wish they could have gotten. And certainly you could point to various aspects that the Dodgers have missed out on. But with what they've been able to do, I still believe the Dodgers' track record is still extremely rock solid. So, what are some conclusions with this, which I was only able to include a couple because I ran out of tweets in this thread. One, the Dodgers, despite consistently having the 4th worst average draft position, and you could say that's even worse if you remove some of the years where I think the Cubs couldn't draft until the 3rd round, or same thing with the Astros. They continue to get the best out of their players. And this includes position players at the minor league level. They continue to be able to produce guys that are productive, effective at that level. And that is important because that allows them, positions themselves to either have successful players at the major league level or the necessary trade pieces they need to have this sustained levels of success. So the Dodgers hitting development system, I believe, is still rock solid. It's not perfect. No major league hitting development system is perfect. Yet, I think with what would be able to allow this Dodgers player development system to further reach its potential, one, the guys at the system, the guys at the younger level, don't often get priority at bats. I think it's unique that we see a guy like an Andy Pages go out and play every day. We've seen and had some complaints about a guy like Miguel Vargas not getting everyday at-bats right now, although I think he's certainly earning it, and he didn't take advantage of his opportunities last year. But other guys in the system, because of the bar of excellence that the Dodgers have, and because of the legacy-type players, the guys that have been in the system for a long time, or the veteran-type superstar players that they've had in the system, they've taken a lot of roster spots for these guys. So even with the limited opportunities that the Dodgers have had, or the guys that the Dodgers have drafted have had, they've still been able to be productive. So when you talk about the hitting development system for this Dodgers team and for this Dodgers organization, I still believe in this hitting development system. I still believe in the talent that they have, and I think their track record of getting a lot of success at the minor league level is absolutely unquestioned. You can look at the 125 WRC plus. You can change some of the standards. I still think the results are going to be the same. As far as getting that talent to be able to accommodate the best at the major league level, perhaps you can say the Dodgers could use some additional work there. They've certainly missed out on some targets in past years, yet the state of this hitting development system, I still believe, remains strong. Could be a little bit of a hot take. You could certainly disagree with me. That is what some of my research was in over on Sunday. That is something that I wanted to share with you guys because that takes a look into some of the numbers behind this Dodgers hitting development system. And I think it's important for you guys to hear that perspective other than the just name guys that the Dodgers have developed. Let's look at it in context at the major league level. I certainly respect the opinion if you or anybody else disagrees and says this farm system still doesn't know how to develop major league hitters. I still believe in this farm system though, and I still believe in the hitting coaches, the hitting instructors. I believe in Dylan Ashaka. I believe in Akoya Dixon. I believe in every one of these players on this Dodger staff. We'll have to wait and see what happens in the future going forward. That's just a little bit of insight into the hitting development system. As I return a little bit to the comments section, I have not had a chance to look at a lot of the comments recently. I need some water. That was a little bit of a long... We're going to go ahead and finish up here pretty soon. I believe Clint Pasillas is going live pretty soon, so if he's not already live. So we'll go ahead and read through some of the comments really quick and then let you guys go over there if you want to, or enjoy your evening, enjoy dinner on the West Coast. Jimmy Davis, if Vargas could be a serviceable third baseman, he's an option. Well, I think that could possibly be the case as well. We'll have to see what happens. Jay, congratulations to Tyrone Lorenzo on being named to the Futures game. Absolutely, congratulations to Tyrone Lorenzo and Errol Perez, who is at the Rancho level, middle infielder, getting that privilege to be part of the All-Star festivities, part of that Futures game. You'll be able to watch that. I don't know exactly how or where you could watch that, but I know Major League Baseball has some sort of service to be able to watch that. So keep an eye out for Tyrone Lorenzo and Gerald Perez, watching them in the Futures game. Let's see. Continue going down into the comments section. Jay, thank you for the interesting analysis comments. Aaron Vaughn, thank you very much for joining. Just talking a little bit about the Dodgers hitting development system. Let's go ahead and look through some of these right now. I'll explain a little bit as far as WRC Plus is concerned. Let's see. Hepatitis, see you later. Austin, should the Dodgers be held accountable for the misses such as Hosey, Bush over Gunnar, Vogel over Kobe Mayo, Bruns over James Wood, or even Kendall George over Kevin McGonigal? Obviously, you want to make sure that you are held accountable. You want to make sure that you're looking for unique ways to be able to make sure that you're getting the best out of your players. And I think there might have to be reevaluation every single year as far as what you're able to do. What I will say, if you hold yourself to the standard that you have to be perfect, and that if you're not perfect, everyone needs to go, I don't think that is I don't think that is a healthy system, nor do I think that is a way that major league teams could operate. So I think it's totally fair, especially with Gunnar Henderson. That was a miss by the Dodgers. They had the opportunity to get him, although I wasn't in the room where that happened, nor do I understand the financial difficulties behind it. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. I just understand the development of what they're able to do, and I believe that they're able to get the best out of their players. And I would find it very difficult to trade this system with any system out there. Every single team misses out on players. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Obviously, there's going to be some misses, but with the Dodgers, I believe their track record still is rock solid. Let's go ahead and read some of this. Mike Boyer, without this podcast, I'd be bored to death. Only sport I watch and follow is baseball, and the only team I watch and follow games is the Dodgers since 1966. Well, we are so happy to have you be part of this show, Dodgers Dogs, part of the Dodgers Daily Network, and grateful that you tuned in to the show today. Very excited to have you be part of this. Let's see. Pika Peep still have yet to see another club have more success with converting two-way players than the Dodgers have since Guggenheim ownership takeover. Yeah, Dodgers still have a lot of success going on right now. So, Austin, any targets you have in mind for the pick 23 for the Dodgers in the 2024 draft? Honestly, I haven't paid a lot of attention to the draft process so far, so I don't know which type of players are out there, nor do I have great insight into the development or the prospects that are out there. I watch too much baseball as it is, watch too much Loons baseball, got to keep up with the Dodgers, the Drillers, the baseball club, and the Quakes. Makes it a little bit difficult to pay attention to the high school ranks as well, but I will make sure that Casey and I do our own research. Once those picks get announced, obviously, Dodgers have a whole team that are dedicated towards finding good players and hopefully some guys that can help both Rancho and Great Lakes coming up pretty soon. I think there's still going to be a lot of exciting players that the Dodgers are going to draft. Christopher Navarro, Clint, and Alana Rizzo have a great show twice a week. Absolutely, they do. D-Mac and Dodgers Dogs, Dodgers Daily. We're well informed. Thank you very much for joining us, Christopher Navarro, and as well to everyone out there. Really appreciate you guys joining us Monday night, Dodgers Dogs, part of the Dodgers Daily Network. I'm going to have to get Coach Barakoff back on the show. Tonight was a little bit unique. Went out to go hit some golf balls with my grandpa after work today. Then it started pouring on us. We were halfway through our session, hitting some golf balls, and that was the end of the day. We had to go take shelter before we can make our way back to the house and get a chance to message Coach until very late. So expecting him, and hopefully that he will be able to join us on this show in the near future. But I couldn't be more grateful for you guys, for the opportunities that I've had here on Dodgers Dogs, part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been a great show today. The Dodgers are headed to Philadelphia right now. They are going to take on the first place in the National League East Division, Philadelphia Phillies, and what should be an exciting matchup between Dodgers and Phillies. It's going to be huge. This is going to be one of those tests for the Dodgers, playoff type tests, because there is a very realistic scenario where you could see both of these teams match up with each other in the postseason. We'll have to wait and see. The Dodgers have a lot of work to do in order to go ahead and make those moves, in order to position themselves into facing the Phillies in the postseason this week, as with previous weeks, as we've seen with them when they went up against the Yankees, as we saw this past week when they went up against the Brewers, when they go up against these tough competition, tough teams, as they've gone up against the Braves. this is a good test for the Dodgers. This is going to be a good week. Tomorrow it's going to be Bobby Miller versus Zach Wheeler. Bobby Miller is going to have to step up his game, and this is a great moment to prove that he still has a talent and to firmly position himself as an option for a postseason type pitcher, or to eliminate some of the concerns that the Dodgers would have having to go after a starter. We'll see if that's the case. We'll see what happens with Dodgers baseball. Either way, gotta love Dodgers baseball. Gotta love this community that we're building here on Dodgers Daily. So if you haven't yet, be sure to check out the interviews with prospects River Ryan and Jack Dreyer on Dodgers Daily. Be sure to tune into that. Also, Clint Pasillas on his show, the All Dodgers podcast, or I actually don't remember exactly what it is. That might be the name of it. If that's the name of it, go ahead and tune over. He's a good friend of the show. So until next time, thank you very much for joining us, and go Dodgers. Thank you very much. I got to make it the switch over. So thank you very much.